Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Scrumbly Coldewin. That was Richard William Coldewin until he discovered the Cockettes, until he walked into this amazing conclave that was a salad of experimental films, Night of the Living Dead, Busby Berkeley, and honky tonk women. So now here they are. They are created, the Cockettes. Scrumbly, what happened from there? Now you have this group, you're all together, and the way you describe them, you sound like lightning in a bottle. What happened from there?
Well, the audience went berserk for us just cooking up. So we did another number. I think we just did the same thing again, just a kick line. And that reinforced the whole Rockettes, Cockettes thing. But we started bringing in a little bit of plot, or at least a heavy theme, more like a musical review. The costumes were outrageous, as outrageous as we could get, mostly constructed out of things we could find in the garbage people left on the streets, once in a while in thrift stores. But we were all very, living right on the edge, so nobody had money. But we eventually scraped together enough to get some glitter and sequins. And we used those profusely. And we started growing from that little instant spontaneous review. We grew into full-length shows within about 6 months. And they put us from going on after the movies or a break in the movies to the beginning. And the lines just went around the block. And we could have done anything and the audience would love it. It was a huge event for them. You might describe it rather like punk rock music movement. Get up there, play a bunch of loud 3 chords. That was the extent of our talent in most cases, but we did have some stars. Sylvester came and joined us, and Sylvester, of course, became a big disco diva, but he used to sing with Peter Minton on piano. Peter now lives in Washington Heights, and he's held forth for years at Bellman's Bar in New York, in Manhattan. So then there was John Rothermill, who was just fantastic as long as he had a dress on. You take him out of a dress, he couldn't sing for shit. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that.
That's all right. I think our audience is mature. That's really interesting that the persona actually brought a voice out of him. That's really interesting.
Yes, much. And so we did things like Gone with a Showboat to Oklahoma, The Circus of Life, where Goldie Glitters had her trained fleas, and I sang a song in that called Do Wah to Me, where I just pulled huge lengths of saran wrap from out of my stomach, supposedly, or the doctors did. That's how they fixed me. Just lots and lots of crazy stuff. In Halloween, we did the Dancing Tombstones. I sang Love Is Where You Find It in the graveyard. Danny Elfman's brother Rick wrote the finale for that show, and also the finale for our longest running repetitive show called Pearls Over Shanghai, which was a takeoff on some very non-PC concepts from the 1940s about the city of Shanghai and the movies that Westerners made about China, like von Sternberg's The Shanghai Gesture and so forth, and showing how ridiculous miscegenation was and everything. That's what we did. Yeah. So there we were, and gradually it got more and more scripted. At one point, Hibiscus, who was all about improv, didn't go along with the rest of us. It was no longer working. He would come out and upstage anybody at the drop of a hat, and it started to become a little bit, we craved more rehearsal and for the things we planned to come off. But so he eventually went off and did something he's wanted to do at the time called the Angels of Light, and he kept that going for a number of years. Then he joined his sisters back in New York City for the Screaming Violets.
So the Coquettes now is becoming genuinely a troupe, genuinely a creative endeavor.
Right.
You obviously went out of that theater. How tell me about the journey, the physical journey. I know you've been in New York, you've been in several places. What was the physical journey like? Where did you go from there?
Well, first of all, the Palace was a destination in itself. There
Right.
was no reason to get bigger in San Francisco. It held over 1,200 people, and the line went around the block every night we performed. So, but we did a few other places. We played Sacramento. We were supposed to play LA to open for Iggy Pop, but the police said, no, 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 you can't come down here. We'll arrest all of you. We were supposed to open for Captain Beefheart at Berkeley Community Theater with 2,000 seat place in Berkeley, and he canceled at the last minute. So we just went over to the university and performed it right there in Sproul Plaza. And then we went down to Chinatown and performed it on a place called Ross Alley, a cappella, no accompaniment, but we did what we did. We reverted to sort of what Hibiscus did, which was to go dancing down the streets. Then when Rex Reed and Truman Capote came to a show with a couple of society people for San Francisco who were coming at that point, they came and saw our show Tinsel Tarts in a Hot Coma, which is a show about going back and forth from Hollywood to New York to Hollywood in the film industry and Broadway. And so Rex Reed wrote this syndicated review in the Chicago Tribune, I think, but it was syndicated all over, about what an incredible event it was, the Coquettes shows. And that got us, somebody picked us up in New York City, and I think he must have been like, the producers, because he didn't give us a chance to rehearse. All he did was publicize. For a week. We had to go to all these parties. I was the only one who stayed and tried to get the lighting scheme worked out and everything. So we hit New York, and the opening night audiences from Broadway went to New York's biggest off-Broadway opening ever. And they essentially were expecting another Hair, but what they got was something like the Sex Pistols for them. It might as well have been the Sex Pistols, because we were terrible. Well, we were fantastic. We were exuberant, but they couldn't see it. They couldn't see it because of what they were expecting. Now, audiences, the subsequent evenings came, and the Village Voice eventually, a week after the, the Pans, the Village Voice gave us a really good review on our second show, Pearls Over Shanghai. But somebody from the New York Post said that we were 15 years ahead of our time. That was the only critic who saw what was going on, really.
Of all things, the New York Post. How the New York Post has changed.
Yes. Or was it the Daily? I don't know. It was either the Daily News or the Post. Check Maureen's article.
I certainly will. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, there'll be several articles on my posts on social media about the history of the Coquettes. And as you see, they are way ahead of their time. So where should they be? In the theater that has always been way ahead of its time, the Public Theater at Joe's Pub, September 9 this year. Be there to see the future happen now.